The studio is kind of a contradiction, in a lot of ways. It houses all these analog tools for making things that I think many architects have rejected in this day and age. I still make physical models. That's still part of my practice. I sketch a lot. I print things out and I draw over them by hand. The contradiction here is the way the studio is set up as a business. It's just completely the opposite. It really depends on the internet. It depends on all this new technologies. All these digital connections are really required for this to operate the way it does. But I actually like having a place in both of those worlds. It feels like the right mix to me. Hey, welcome to 30 by 40 Design Workshop. Today we're going to do a studio tour. So 30 by 40 started in 2013. It did start as a residential architecture practice, but I always knew that I wanted it to be more than that. I knew I wanted this to be a place to make films. I knew I wanted to be performance and practice space for my kids and their band. It wanted to be design space for the studio, obviously, meeting space for friends, family, hangout space for the kids. It wanted to be an educational space, a space where I could actually give workshops. Of course, this was going to be the home for the YouTube channel. In that sense, it had an educational component to it. I do printmaking here, I do graphic design here, photography. I really do see everything as a design challenge and something to be solved. And this is the sort of creative cage that I put myself in each day. But it's not just residential architecture. So lighting here was really important to me. The whole concept of the building really explored apertures, and because it's such a simple structure, there's only a few things you can really do. And so natural light was one of the really important organizing features of this. So we have these really large openings which open to the east, and then we have these really narrow ones that open to the west out to this sort of forest view. We have slot skylights that look up to the sky. We have these tiny punches, and then we also have walls that just have no openings on them altogether. And so so this combination of elements that gives you this great variety in what's a really small space. It couldn't be more perfect in the morning here. When I'm working here, the morning light from the east just kind of pours in and illuminates the work surface here on my desk. It's also this kind of seasonal timepiece that the building is. There's this little window up in the gable here. The sunlight from that only reaches down into this space when the sun is low in the sky and all the leaves out there have fallen. And so it just means that, this place is a little bit different every single day. Design studio here, meeting space in the middle, instrument practice space on this end. To either end, there are storage lofts. So this has a twin bed in it, set of twin beds in it. This one has a queen bed in it, and so we use this as overflow sleeping space when we have guests in the main house. The idea with this is that it's meant to be flexible and swing space. So these tables move out of the way, the lights move up. This can be used as performance space, or it can be used to set up, large workshop tools. A table saw can be converted to, vehicle storage in the future. The idea is to make it like a barn in the sense that it's multifunctional. So I think studios fall into kind of two general categories when it comes to organization. So there's the chaotic kind of studio where all the process and mess of design is visible and out in the open. And then there's the sort of ultra organized studio, and this definitely falls into that camp. I'm someone who can't work in cluttered spaces. So in this studio, everything has a home. The centerpiece of the studio is this drafting table, which I salvaged from a dumpster at the first architecture job that I ever had when I graduated architecture school. And I strapped this to the roof of my Honda Civic, and it's been at the center of my practice since that day. Central to this is my workstation. So I use an iMac here for a lot of reasons, primarily because I use Final Cut Pro. I also have a PC which has Revit on it, so that's something that I'm transitioning to as well. There is no clutter on this workspace, so at the end of every day, I'm basically putting things away where they live. Things are organized in terms of how often they're used. So things that are used often are within arm's reach. Things like my sketchbook, markers. I have my Muji sketchbooks to this side. I have my Froebel blocks to this side. So Froebel blocks are these little sort of wooden blocks that I can use to get out of the digital environment and start thinking three-dimensionally. I have two sets of these These are the rectangular ones, and then these are the cubic volumes here. So sets 3 and 4. They sit on top of a piece of granite, which is a cobble from a local quarry here. I have these little metal stamps with their numbered metal stamps. Everything in this studio has a place, and you know, I use these sort of boxes as a means for organizing things. So all small objects will fit into some sort of box, and these boxes end up creating their own sort of aesthetic in the studio, which, you know, I find particularly appealing. I have paper clips, binder clips there, a set of bonsai shears here. I love these. They just look nice. To the right side, I have 2 4 terabyte hard drives, external hard drives, my ear pods. I have a charging station here. I have my roll of trace. I have writing implements in a Muji pencil case. So sign pen, of course, Pilot Precise pens. And I like the V7 version of these, so both red and black. My favorite new mechanical pencil, this is the Kurutoga. Love that one. An eraser. In here, I have colored pencils, just all the tones that I use commonly. Another Muji sketchbook. My current one is kind of always kept out there. More writing implements. And these are in these sort of metal cases that were used to sterilize things in my grandfather's model shop. And these are the caps to those cases. You can see sterile here. But I just find they keep things orderly and organized. A small scale, my Olfa L2, a couple other things. So I have down in front a sound bar, and I have a remote subwoofer, so that's just a way of having sound in the studio. It's kind of nice, actually, if you have a meeting, just to have some layer of background noise. More markers, Prismacolors to this side. So everything from sort of counter level up to eye level is the sort of priority level stuff. So on the right, to the right of the drafting table here, I have monographs. And the monographs are really kept closest to the meeting table, so I'm always pulling those for imagery for meetings. And then there's the sort of reference materials, things that I'd be referencing while I'm doing technical drawings at the drafting table here. So Building Construction Illustrated, my steel manual, detailing manuals are to this side. Below that, I have project-related specific information. So I have filing folders here. This has current sketches, current design ideas, and just reference information for the ongoing projects here. Below that, I have critical path documents. So for any project that's in construction, there'll be a set of critical path documents that I can just grab and add to my messenger bag here, and then leave for a meeting. Inside the messenger bag, I have a 25-foot tape that's essential, and I also have a laser measurer. And then in here, I just load up the project files, and then I head to the meeting. So things below counter level are less important, and then things stored up high are even less important than that. So organizationally, at the very bottom is my archive. So I have archived project folders here, archived sketches, archived sketchbooks. Okay, left side of the drafting table has all of my photography gear. These are 2 shelves that I bought at CB2, and I basically just spray painted the outside black, spray painted the inside primer gray. So these are great because they're providing some horizontal display space, but you can kind of contain all the clutter. So I have writing implements, extra Pilot pens, sign pens, Sharpie ultrafine points, all my charging equipment, specialty charging equipment for the slider and things like that, some extra batteries, SD cards, stepping rings for lenses and filters, manuals, things like that here. On top of that, they act as shelves for the most commonly used equipment that I have. Photography lenses, you know, my Joby, batteries, microphones, Scotch tape, things like that. The far end is display space, basically. These 2 shelves have miscellaneous charging cords, rubber bands, tapes, survey tapes, things like that. And then I have the Mavic here. That's so I can grab and go since I'm using this all the time. This is easy just to plug in and move away. Close this up and it's all self-contained. So below that level, we have coffee maker, obviously, hotspot because we have no internet on the island here. This is the T120. It takes a 24-inch wide roll. It also takes 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17 sheets. Great for plotting technical drawings. Not so great for plotting images or renderings. This end I have tools, easy access, so a drill, some working tools. Here I have some stationery, Below that is all model making supplies. So I'm not using that quite as frequently as I am some of this stuff. Paper here for the plotter. And then this is kind of snack zone here. And then this last shelf is for some random tech, you know, scanner, microphones, extra laptops, things like that. The center of the space is really meant to be flexible. It's used primarily for meetings, but these tables can move against the wall, underneath the windows. The idea is that this functions like a barn and that its future function is not limited by what we fix in place. So the tables here are from room and board, and these tables come in any size you need at any height. So you'll notice that the module of the table is the same as the module of the windows, same as the module of the skylight, and that these tuck in right behind the ladders. Paired with that are these chairs from IKEA, and they're stackable, so again, we can move these out of the way. The two pendant lights can be rearranged using different mounting hooks. There's different swag hooks at the top here, which allow them to move up and out of the way. This is the materials storage cart. What I do is typically for this top tray, I kind of pick and choose from the materials here and build a material palette that we then have sitting next to us for the meeting. So this kind of fits into that idea of, you know, everything is proximal to its use. The cart is rolling again, so it's not fixed in a way that limits the use or function of the studio. Coming over to this side here. So I do have some larger sample materials over here. I've got some decking samples, a larger piece of soapstone, and some shingle samples. Toolbox has a direct relationship to when I'm using it to build models on this table. Cutting mat. So at this far corner here, again, this wooden box aesthetic extends here. These are all sort of current drawings that I have, so I can use them, grab and go out to a meeting. I like to print hard copies of these just so that I can pull them out and easily reference them on this table if I'm having a phone call. I also have some model making supplies here as well. All right, so coming over here, these loft ladders I've fabricated myself just out of pine basically, and some brackets. At the top they're fixed with magnets, cup magnets here. So you can see I've cut it to notch into the loft framing, and then to keep it in place I've installed recessed magnets. But you can see the box aesthetic sort of happening up here as well. And on the other side I have some reference materials which are not used as frequently. Everything above the 8-foot level is rendered in white to keep things light and airy. Let's quickly talk about the music end of things. The drum set takes up the largest amount of space at this end, obviously, flanked by the IKEA storage system here, which has storage for all the musical items, as well as some overflow storage from the studio. I also have printmaking supplies there. I use the top of that to store some extra sort of models. Swinging over to this side, we have the guitars. They're all mounted to the walls with this black hardware here. Guitars are all black, the amps are black, the lighting stands are black. The drum set actually used to be black. It's now this sort of cherry red. So it's definitely something to consider when you're planning a small space. How does all the furniture and fittings and equipment all speak to each other and speak a common language? Let's have a look at the mini split for a minute. All right, so Norwegian flag, this is my heritage. My grandfather was from Norway. We move that and we'll see the heating system and the cooling system for this space. We don't tend to use the cooling very much here in Maine, but it's efficient both ways. This is a mini split. It's basically a heat pump system, and depending on which direction you run it in, you'll either heat the interior or cool the interior. You'll notice it's off center, and this was a mistake of mine. During the rough-in phase, I didn't realize that the rough-in, which sits over here, was actually not positioned in a way to center it in the space. So that's why we have the flag hanging over it to correct that asymmetry. You'd never notice. You know, when I think about it, everything I've ever needed to make things has always sort of been right here on this table. And I love the studio. It's been a fantastic experiment and a great place to work, but a studio's importance doesn't lie in its size or its architecture or layout or organization. It's just what it allows you to make.